Hello and welcome everyone. I can't see you all filling in, but I'm going to give it a couple minutes for some attendees to join before we get started. I am Tammy McQueen, and you might be in the right place if you're here for branding and go-to-market strategies. So go ahead and drop your name in, say hi. I'd love to see who's here. Introduce yourself, let me know what you're doing. I have the chat on the side, so I will pay attention to that, and would love to hear who's here today. Also, this is really interesting because you have the chat here and you're wondering where the people are. So thrilled to be here this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are tuning in from. I am going to go through a session today about branding, go-to-market strategies, and share some tips, strategies, insight around that, and walk you through it, take your comments and any questions you have along the way. It looks like Lizzie's just joined. Hi, Lizzie. You are here. Thanks so much for saying hi. Again, if you're just joining, drop your name in the chat. Would love to hear what you're working on, what you are doing, and why you're here as well. So I'll go ahead and get started. Again, you can find me on Twitter. I'm Tammy_McQueen. It's a double underscore on that as well. So join the conversation, drop some questions in there as well. Hi, Umama. Hi, Jen. Hi, Manaj. Thank you so much for joining. And Joseph, thank you. Hi for joining. Again, the conversation on Twitter is Atlanta SW for Startup Week. So join the conversation, drop me a note there as well. Drop in your questions in the chat as well. All right. I'm figuring out how to share the screen. All right, there we go. Who am I? I'm Tammy McQueen. I'm originally from Johannesburg, South Africa, and actually a small town within Johannesburg called Benoni. No one goes there, no one leaves. And I have been in the US now for about 18 years. I came to the US to play tennis in college. I often tell the story that I was playing very competitive tennis as a young athlete and hit 5'2", and you're just not going pro. So I got a tennis scholarship to play Division I, and that's what brought me to the US. I played for a small Division I school in Western Kentucky called Murray State. And if you are a basketball fan, you will know the Racers. So huge fan of them. I did my undergrad and grad school there before going into corporate marketing. Some reason I knew going into college that marketing is where I wanted to be and the track I wanted to take. So graduated college and went straight into a very traditional marketing route, corporate marketing. And if I must age myself, it's important for this conversation because when I graduated, Twitter wasn't around, Uber wasn't around, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook was only available for .edu accounts. So I think that is really, really interesting if going into marketing where colleges didn't really talk about where we are in digital right now. We were doing a lot of newsletters. We were doing very typical event strategy where there were still booth babes, believe it or not. And we have progressed significantly, might I add. From the corporate marketing role right out of college, I went into an academic role where I worked for a large academic institution and took their entire organization digital. So very much that traditional magazine in your hands, flip marketing into a digital sense where started their social media accounts, started communication, through their online platforms. And then from that opportunity moved into corporate recruiting on the corporate side, not necessarily on the recruiting side, and had the opportunity during that stage to dive and immerse myself into all things technology in the Atlanta ecosystem. Started showing up to every possible event, understood the different tech communities around Atlanta, and just immerse myself in everything there. from that stage, I had the opportunity to join SalesLoft at a very, very early stage as the first marketing hire, and attribute so much of my SaaS career to SalesLoft and how it afforded me so many different opportunities in a hyper-growth environment. They really took the lead on B2B marketing and brand and how important that was in go-to-market, but also doing things that were really, really unique in the B2B space that B2C companies were doing before, but was really unique to be a bit bold in B2B. So had the opportunity to do that, and I can share some more things on that. After a few years with SalesLoft, went out on my own with a couple partners to start 31 South. And this is a marketing agency for B2B and B2C companies where we focus on experiential marketing, but also brand, go-to-market, video, and different content that we work on. So through 31 South and now Summit House, which is a sort of an amalgamation of 4 different agencies, we've been able to work with some of the world's most innovative brands and really take a stab at working with some unique branding opportunities. So again, that's a little bit about me and what I do. I absolutely love the B2B SaaS space. So again, my presentation will mostly be about the B2B branding marketing space as opposed to B2C. I can speak to that, but this is going to be very heavily focused on a B2B track. All right, I'm going to catch a breath. I see some more folks joining in, and I see that you're dropping in your website as well. That's super helpful. Thank you so much. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Would love to hear what you do, why you're here as well. All right, so for the presentation today, yes, these slides will be shared. I believe they will share the entire video and presentation as well. So thank you, Techstars, for doing that. I know it is a Friday afternoon. So for those of you who are here, I greatly appreciate your time today and know that these will be tucked away. So if you need some weekend watching and reading, they will be available to you after the fact. Again, I'd love for this to be interactive. I'd love, for you to drop in your questions. If you have something, drop it in. I will, speak about it, what it is. And then we want to keep it informal. I don't want this to be snoozing in the background while you're working on everything else. If that's the case, great. Thanks for joining. But again, would love for this to be interactive. Let me help you while we have this dedicated time. How can I help you? How can I serve what you are doing? And we can go from there. Connect with others in the session. I know Manaj has just dropped in some ideas to share the link to your startup. I think that's a great idea. Connect with others in the session. Connect with them on LinkedIn. And I'd love to connect with you. If you're in the session, connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I do respond there fastest as opposed to email. So would love to connect with you on social. How can I help support you in what you're doing? And also, I think the Atlanta ecosystem is such a strong community that we need to foster and develop over time. So would love to be part of that and help in any way that I can. All right. I didn't see any other questions coming up, so I'm going to keep rolling. All right, today we're going to cover a few things, and this is really where I want to touch on. You'll see as we go through the presentation, there will be other things included, but these are the 4 main areas that I want to talk about. Why is branding so important? And really, what is branding? We think we know what branding is, but we'll dive into that a little bit further about how it pertains to starting out an early stage startup and then how you progress over time as well. Secondly, I want to talk about getting ready for a go-to-market strategy and how you can be best prepared to do that. And then how to successfully launch and different strategies for the launch and what that looks like, what might work for you as opposed to what might work for others. And then lastly, we'll get to the post-launch and beyond. What does that mean for you and how you can keep growing with some of these branding and marketing strategies and how you can adapt to the market and industry as well. All right, this is one of my favorite quotes of all time when it comes to marketing, and I think it's something you can tuck away and keep in your back pocket to remember, and that is, nothing kills a bad product faster than good marketing. So excellent marketing can do the world of good, but it also can kill a bad product that's not yet ready to go to market. So this is one of my favorites. Keep it handy, screenshot it, put it to memory. Definitely something that I hold on to. All right, so branding. I think, a lot of this might be, table stakes, something that you are familiar with already, but keep in mind what branding really is. And I think it's important to understand that it's not just your prospects, but it's your customers, your community also, and it's how they perceive you. So you can't necessarily make them perceive you in a certain light, but you can direct them to how they perceive you through that consistency of branding, consistency of messaging, and the consistency of how you show up day in and day out, whether that is online, digital, in person. Let's hope we get back to in-person sooner rather than later. But it's important that you have the consistency of delivering what you say you will deliver. And that's really how that perception, that reputation is built. And this is not only for your company, this is also for your personal brand. A lot of folks are thinking, and this is a bit of a tangent, when you think about that personal brand, most folks think they need to set out to create a personal brand. Yes, you can set out to create a personal brand, but it's not necessarily through that genuine and transparent interactions that you have. It's simply that perception of who you are. It is showing up, delivering what you say you will deliver on, and doing that consistently over time. And I think that's really, really important when you take a product to market. Again, remember that the slide before, nothing destroys a bad product faster than good marketing. And again, branding is also not a quick fix. I hear a lot of companies talk about a rebrand, a reinvention, redefining their imaging and imagery, what that is. And branding, rebranding is not a quick fix to something that is not in a good place, a poor reputation. Branding is not going to solve a poor reputation. It can help take the right steps to get there, but it's certainly not going to be a quick fix to solving all your branding, reputation, or perception issues that you might have. All right, so 2 things to take in mind, and really breaking this down to simplicity when it comes to branding. 2 main things you need to focus on. That's it. Everything else falls within this. What is your focus? You absolutely cannot be everything to everyone. It seems appealing, especially with an increasingly large total addressable market. Having that opportunity or a large market size is really, it can be distracting. It can be sort of the silver bullet that you're chasing. Well, I need to appeal to this entire market. But I'll caution you to really find who that audience is and really hone in on that. So, for example, a marketing agency for B2B SaaS. So in the early days, started out 31 South as being hyper-focused on B2B SaaS and hyper growth. So this is Series B and above, and really focusing on the experiential side of the organization. So yes, you could be a SaaS marketer to anyone and everyone at every stage. But again, it's if you're everything to everyone, you're nothing to anyone. Again, I like to think of this as a doctor. So if you have a toothache or you have a root canal, you're not necessarily going to go to your general practitioner to solve that issue. You're going to go to the specific person, the specific physician that can solve that need. Again, housing. If you have a plumbing issue, you don't necessarily want a general contractor to come solve your super intricate plumbing issue. Yes, they can do it, but they're not the best for the job. So again, finding what that specific niche area is and outlining what that audience looks like for you is so important in your marketing, so that you can specifically talk to that community. You can specifically hone in on what your ideal customer profile looks like. It's not everyone. I don't care what anyone says. Everyone is not your ideal customer profile. Not when you go to market. Perhaps it could be, but it's not at go-to-market. The same with Airbnb. Yes, a lot of people travel. Just about anyone travels, any age, any demographic, but really understanding what that geographic location is. If you are launching nationwide, fantastic, but should you focus on a key geographical area where you know you can gain traction first, and then create a scalable, repeatable model across the nation instead of doing it boom all at once. So I think that's really important to have that keen focus. All right, your values. Really important to understand what your key differentiator is and double down on that. What do you excel at? What are you the absolute best at that no one else can do? For me, in my early career and the agency, was very much on the experiential side of B2B SaaS live events. I know it's so hard for us to even conceptualize what a live event is or transport ourselves back into that situation. But think about what that is. What is that experience? And now I'm talking, 3-4 years ago, where that was really where that focus lied. And understanding what that value is. It was the key differentiator. And dive into that more so in your marketing. Let that come through. Talk about why you are unique. What is the unique differentiator? Is it the geographic location? Is it the type of services you offer? And really diving into that before you go into full-on branding. All right. I have a little dot where it tells me if you're dropping in questions, and I have one here from Manoj, and it says, should you build the personal profile before building the profile for one's tech company? And also, what role trust plays in brand development? So some startups work on fake it until you make it. I think this is a bad strategy as it compromises on trust. Okay, so let me unpack this before I go into the next slides here. And this is such a great question. Thank you, Manoj. I'm sorry I missed it in the chat. So thank you to the Techstars team who's helping me out here. So I think what's really important is when you look at this, should a person build their personal brand before they build the company's brand? And I don't think there's any right answer to this. There are many ways that you could approach this. So one, I would imagine if you are diving into the entrepreneurship community, or if you're diving into the startup world, you have already been immersed in some capacity. I don't think that you would, what I have seen based on my experience is that they are at least plugged into the startup community, whether it's through an accelerator, through a different community, meetups, or different products or events. They've immersed themselves in some capacity. So you already have your profile, your so-called personal brand. But on the flip side of that, I've also seen such a strong personal brand entering into a company. So this might be the second startup. It might be the initial first one, but the prolific presentation of the person itself has been sort of that person's show. It hasn't necessarily been the company. So with that, there has been significant work that needs to take place for the company to shift the model from it's the Joe Smith show, but it's now the company. So shifting that is really important as well. What I do think is that can take some time, but so can the opportunity for a company to develop, but they don't showcase who their leaders are either. So that can come in time. But to your question, Manoj, is should a company focus on their brand first and then their companies? I don't think it's as simple or as linear as being able to do that. I think you have to build it as you build in the company. I don't think you should hold off on building the company until you feel like you have an established brand, because your brand is ever evolving. It will always change. The personal perception of brand that I had 3 years ago is unique to where we are today. And that's the case for everyone. Everyone has had to shift who they are in terms of how they offer themselves to their careers or to the economy. For example, if you were in event marketing this year, you've had to shift very, very quickly. And so being able to show the diversity and the sort of the dynamic version of yourself is part of your ever evolving personal brand. So I don't think you check a box with this is your personal brand and this is who you are for the rest of your days. Be willing to be amenable to the changes of the economy, of the environment, and of the market as well. So while you're working on your brand all the time, focus on your company's brand in alignment with that. In terms of the role trust plays, I think this comes back to your personal brand as well, and saying what you're going to say and let me backtrack. Doing what you say you will do, and also not only to your customers and community, but it's so important internally as well. You can't decide to tackle culture. You can't decide to dive into what the culture is down the road. Once you establish, once you raise your Series A, once you have funding, once you reach 1 million in ARR, you've got to do that from the get-go. And so trust is really important that you build that internally as well, so that your customer success, your sales team, your marketing team, whomever they are talking to, customers, prospects, also exhibit that same trust with that community as well. And then I think fake it until you make it. I think it can get you so far. And I think, yes, perception is reality. And a lot of startups have had the opportunity to really amp up their marketing with some dollars, with some marketing spend. But I also think it can land you in trouble if you don't follow up on the promises that you make. So I'm not sure if fake it till you make it is the right approach in every capacity, especially when you start bringing on investors and you start bringing on a larger team. So I'm not sure that I can really recommend the fake it till you make it when scaling a company. Perhaps in your own mind, showing up every single day, working on the hard things every single day is an element of that you could probably bring into it. I hope that answers your question, and I hope that is sufficient to where we are. Happy to follow up on LinkedIn as well afterwards. All right, so back to B2B branding. I want to talk about this in terms of positioning. And so B2C brands do such a remarkable job of this. They are second to none in how they share their stories and how they humanize connections so that they create such connectivity on the other end of the screen and really bring in those people into the conversation. B2B has come a long way in being able to do this. Not everyone has, but I will say that those that are able to tell their story and exhibit that transparency and that genuine communication really do a great job of this. So let's think about a B2C company. The ads you see on TV, the ads that are served to you on Instagram, on Twitter, not so much on LinkedIn, but the ads that you get are so infused with emotion. They create such an emotional connection. I don't know many brands in B2B that can really invoke an emotional connection. I'm not saying that as a B2B brand, you're going to go tug on the heartstrings, but understand what some of those pain points your customer has so that you can be empathetic to what that is. B2B brands are very stiff. They're very stuffy. They are very, very formal. And unfortunately, more often than not, are following a playbook. And so whether it is a playbook that they have downloaded online from a really helpful resource, because if you are a startup and searching for something online, HubSpot is such an incredible resource for absolutely everything. I'm convinced they own every piece of content out there and every possible playbook, templates, emails, the works. They're incredible. But that access to that content is available to every other person starting a startup or working in the business as well. And so it becomes quite stale. It becomes ordinary, and you don't really stand out. So what I've seen a lot of B2B companies is they'll download their PDF or they'll download their templates, and they now have a playbook. I've also seen consultants offer a playbook where they take this and now all they are doing is running through this as if they are checking a box on their playbook. Great, we need this strategy. This is how we're going to run a virtual event. This is how we're going to launch. And you just check these boxes instead of really humanizing that communication with your audience and with your customers. This is so important that you humanize your communication. I'll share a little bit about this in a couple minutes as we keep going down some of the slides and what that looks like when you humanize in that communication. All right. I'm using this new template, and it has this little blue dot that tracks my things, and I'm so excited about this. I haven't used it before, but I really like it. All right. Here we go. How to humanize your communications. 6 strategies. Screenshot the page, keep it wherever, whatever it is, that we want to keep this quite simple. All right, so get personal, know your audience, be a painkiller, experiment across channels, talk to your customers, and stop the sales pitch. I'm going to go through each of these over the next couple slides as well. All right, get personal. So this is where you really, at an early stage before you go to market or as you're launching, whatever that may be, this is such an exciting time to get to know your beta users, your trial users, your early access users, your community members. These are folks that are already bought in or willing to help you get to that next phase. You've already established product market fit. But they are really helping you fine-tune some of those, the cogs in the wheel. Also, my idioms are absolutely horrific. I think it's a South African thing, or maybe not. I blame it on being a foreigner because all my idioms are completely wayward. So if it's cogs in a wheel, you've got to just roll with it. All right, so focus on better understanding who they are, your beta users, your trial users, the folks that raise their hand and say, I want early access to your platform, to your product, wherever it may be. These are your absolute gold gems. You need to hold on to these folks tighter than you can even imagine. They will be your biggest fans, and they will help you and answer some of your toughest questions that you have. Develop a relationship with them. This comes back to that trust. So be able to create an open stream of communication with them where you can ask them questions, and they will encourage that transparent communication and feedback loop with you. So it's important to build community. Start here. This is the easiest and fastest way to start creating and building your community in whatever industry it is, whatever market it is, whatever sort of segment you are in. And so build this community quickly and really understand what it is that helps them or what you're solving for them. So send them a monthly update, just as you would send an investor update. This will help you get into the mindset of sending what that monthly update is, which you will have to send when you take on investors. And so this helps you sort of create that that mindset, that memory muscle of what you will be doing. And so send it to that trusted circle. Ask them who else might benefit from this, and allow them to be that amplification tool for you right in the beginning. And again, listen with the intent to understand, not respond. Oftentimes when we're listening to feedback of something that is so close to us, that we are so emotionally attached to, is that we're already thinking of how we're going to respond in our minds, not the feedback we're getting. And I've been guilty of that too. I've often thought of that too. And keep that in your mind, in the back of your mind. Listen with the intent to understand, not just come back, well, that's in the roadmap, that's coming up, we're already doing that, that's what our engineers are doing. Listen to why that has suddenly become a question that they bring in toward you. All right, on to the next. Know your audience. This seems very basic, but we often ignore it in marketing. When you think about marketing, and marketers are notorious for this, myself included, we want all the flash. We want to talk about what we want to talk about. We think that's what marketing is, but sometimes it's just not the case. We need to understand who we're talking to, who is the decision maker, who is really the person making the decision in the process, in the buyer's journey of someone that will sign a deal with you, whether it's a subscription for $9.99 a month, or if it is an annual commitment, or if you are in the enterprise space. Understand who will truly make that decision and get to know that person really well. Understand what the typical sales cycle looks like, whether it's a competitor in the space or what it looks like for you, and can your team deliver on that? Who will be part of that sales cycle from marketing to close to post-marketing as well, which is really, really important. And then understand how they consume their content. Are your buyers or your prospects, your community, are they on LinkedIn? Do they spend a lot of their time on LinkedIn? I have LinkedIn up all the time. I am always running through the feed. I have my messages come up through there. That's sort of where I live and breathe. If you want to reach me, that's a great place to advertise to what my persona would be. The same goes for Twitter. If I want to have lighthearted banter conversations on Twitter, that's where I'm going to be. So I typically have those screens up all the time. I don't read Medium very often if there's a blog that's up. So understand where people consume your content. Are they podcast listeners? Are they likely to consume a long form piece of content that's a video, or do they prefer snippets while scrolling mindlessly at night? So understand how you can be part of their day, not just between the 9 to 5. Now, we all know 9 to 5 is not a thing in the startup world, but again, that's sort of the analogy there. Know where they live and breathe. All right, this is something that has been around the startup community and world for many, many years. And it's, are you a vitamin or are you a painkiller? And I think it's so important to understand this. And if you are one and not the other, that's fine. But you've got to understand and be very, very clear of what you are. So a painkiller, this serves a critical business need. It solves a problem, it takes it away, it creates efficiencies, effectiveness, helps you really work on who you are and what you're doing, solves your problems immediately, okay? A vitamin is a nice to have. So that is something that you take every day, keeps you healthy, apple a day keeps the doctor away, sort of thing. It's a nice to have. It doesn't change your life dramatically, but it amplifies what you are doing. Trying to think if you can think of any products that for you are a vitamin or a painkiller. I'm trying to think for me, if I look at my apps and what I work on, Slack is both a painkiller and a vitamin for me. For a vitamin is that it helps me encourage day-to-day communication with my co-workers and my colleagues. But now it has become a painkiller during a global pandemic where we have asynchronous workforces as well as distributed and remote teams. So I absolutely couldn't survive without a communication platform such as Slack. So if you think about that, how that typically facilitates your day-to-day and how you will launch a product. Be clear about it. If you are a vitamin, don't go selling that you're going to revolutionize someone's life just by absolutely annihilating every problem that they have. So it really helps you hone in on what that messaging is. One is not better than the other. It comes down to your messaging again. All right, so this is really, really important. I see this time and time again, especially with companies that are determining where and how to go to market, but also in branding. This is really key. I see this in very early stage companies. I see this in companies that are still trying to find their product market fit, as well as enterprise companies. So you're not alone. What I hear is that just because there is TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Medium, whatever the platform is, does not mean you need to be there. Just because you think you should have an Instagram platform and an account, especially if you're a B2B SaaS company, understand what on earth your purpose is on Instagram and why someone wants to scroll through that through a sea of memes and hilarity at the end of their day when they choose to disconnect. Are you using it for a cultural purpose within your team for hiring? Are you showing what your team looks like? Works fantastically. But if you take that to TikTok, having your executives pull up to a table or showing them working from home, it's probably not going to work for you. Or having a product dance around on screen with a little cartoon character, I'm not so sure it's going to be a win for you on TikTok. So really find where you need to be and double down on that. So for example, B2B SaaS, you should probably be on LinkedIn. And I'm going to suggest that you focus on what that narrative looks like on that platform as well. But just because it's there doesn't mean you have to be on that platform. So figure out, back to knowing your audience and what you deliver and who those decision makers are. Understand what that is. And then the same goes for blog posts, podcasts, white papers, ebooks. Just because you read something somewhere that you need to have a white paper or a blog or an ebook does not mean that you have to do that. I've often said that there's no magic behind a gated ebook. So unless you have a clear strategy post-download and a connection process for the buyer's journey. So really understand it. Just because someone's releasing a podcast doesn't necessarily mean you need to as well. Just because your competition is doing ebooks and videos and white papers does not mean you need to do it as well. Understand what that looks like for you. What does lead generation look like? And should that really translate to a webinar or a blog post or a video series? And spend some time understanding what these channels look like for you to be most effective. All right, so talking to your customers is really important. This is a no-brainer, coming back to that community element, and I think you will see how all of this fits in and ties together, all these different 6 strategies. So talking to your customers, this again, that builds that trust, understanding who you are and why you're there. So when we are developing that email copy, or we developing that cadence, or writing that website copy, we understand who it is that we are talking to. And we're not creating just a one-pager of marketing buzzwords for the industry. This is really important. So if someone goes to your website, do we know what exactly it is that you do? Or is it a sea of words that just sounds like a marketing email? And be aware of that. For example, if you're sending an email, it doesn't necessarily have to be this hugely over-designed HTML email. I'm a huge fan of personalization at scale and understanding, listen, I'm far more likely to open a personalized, complete email that has taken the time to understand who I am and share their product, their news with me through that way, than overly designed HTML that has different blocks that feel like they need to be there just to check a box. All right, let's stop that. Any questions so far? Again, drop in the chat. Would love to dive into those as well. All right, so the sales pitch. This is really easy to do, and a lot of people do this where they are just pitching. They are trying to sell their products in every piece of content that they have, whether this is a CTA button at every point in the copy, or if it is just selling what they do, it's really important to sell the process. Why your product will make the lives better of those that are using it, or your prospects. Save them some time. Will they get to spend more time with their family? Will it make them more efficient in what they do? Will it help them grow in their career? Will it give them better peace of mind, help them perform better, relax, whatever that is? Understand what that is. It does not have to be a sales pitch. Marketing is often going back into that stage of being empathetic to others and understanding what that looks like. And I'm about to get a huge glare of sunlight, so I'm going to stand up and close that at some point. All right. Any other questions on this? I'm going to hop up and grab that sunlight so it's not staring at me all the time. 1 second. That was your intermission to get a glass of water. All right. I don't have any other questions, so I'm going to keep going. This is really strange, just staring into the video and not getting much back. So looks like we have a question here. All right, from Manoj. Channels I know are LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook for organic growth. I don't pay for adverts. Fantastic. I love that. My latest product, Skilled Up Life, volunteers for tech startups. What other channels should I explore? Our initial focus of the two-stage marketplace is to attract more folks to give them time for gaining new experiences. This is a great question that would be tough to be able to speak on right off the bat without having a look at it. If any of you watching this can click on that link and explore, would love your feedback to drop in into the chat as well. But I would be really glad to have a look at that and follow up with you on LinkedIn. All right, another question we have here. It says, what is the best way to build a brand on LinkedIn page for a B2C company? Interesting. I think building a brand page on LinkedIn is significantly tougher than having the executives at the company sharing on LinkedIn. It's odd. If you scroll through your LinkedIn profile or your LinkedIn page, I think you often see humans. You see humans posting, but not as much engagement. I know I'm not likely to leave a comment for a brand page than I am for a human. So what I would encourage you to do, and this is what I do with most of our clients, especially on the B2B side and B2C side actually, is that get your executives to share more on LinkedIn. Tell the story. If you are building a B2C company, I love the idea of building in public. I love the idea of your founders sharing their story in building this brand. So while you might have a B2C page, a company page, I think that's fantastic. And what you can do with that is have that page set up as you would. Include any content you have from your site, your videos, your blog posts. Make sure all your employees are linked to that page as well. And then what would be a great idea then is to have your CEO, a founder, if it's you, start sharing a little bit more about what you're building and what you're working on. And I think that is incredibly important to give a little taste. You're not giving away all your trade secrets. You're not giving away, any IP, but you are taking them on this journey with you. If you are about to launch, take them on this journey with you. Share some insight, and it's a great way to crowdsource ideas as well. So this is an opportunity where I would say on LinkedIn, leverage your team to share and also link back to that page. Share what you're doing. So that is the approach that I would offer as well. All right, I'm going to go now from branding and shift into the actual go-to-market. Okay, one more question here. I love these questions, so please, this is not formal. I want you to drop questions and you'll stop me. I will grab these before we go on. Okay, so great question. what would be the best stories to share from a founder on LinkedIn? I love this question. I think it is so impactful, whether you are a nonprofit, B2C, B2B2C, whatever it may be. Some of the best stories. Why are you starting a company? Simple. Why? What fueled you? What is it in you? What wild, traumatic, crazy stress led you to actually do this? I think entrepreneurs are a special breed of folks that are so resilient, and it's unique. You know, whether other folks are looking at you as a founder, you might be an inspiration to others who are starting a side hustle, a side gig, or thinking about it. So share that story. The team at Buffer is absolutely incredible, being so transparent with everything that they do. That is extreme transparency. You don't necessarily need to go all the other end of the spectrum, but share why you wanted to start a company. How did you run into this problem that you are solving for, and why, and what inspired you to tackle this issue? I think that's such a great way. I know Umama is listening. She does a great job with Sweatpack in sharing some of the challenges that they encountered, or she encountered, to meet other people, meet other friends, and how she has built what she's doing to facilitate that community. So take folks along that journey, understand what it is that you are doing. I think what a great way is to share some of the difficulties that you've experienced. If you're willing to peel back some of the layers and open the curtain on, pull back that curtain on what you've experienced, can be so impactful. I think a lot of folks think, well, this isn't going to go viral. Well, you know what? It only needs to impact a few people to really make a difference. So if you went through some really tough hardships in raising a round of capital, share why it was hard. Who did you come across? Who was there to really support that movement? That's helpful. What are some of the early wins that you experienced in building a company? What was your first hire and why? Those are some of the stories that can be really impactful. Communities, share customer stories. If you get a great review, especially in B2B, in B2C, a great review, share it. Share a customer case study. Put as much light on your customers and your community as possible, for they will be there to lift you up as well. All right, Imama has just shared as well that building in public is a great way to those in B2B and B2C deals. So that is absolutely true. Building in public, being very transparent about what you're doing, it can also help folks understand what you need. If someone, be a door opener. So if someone understands what you're doing or some of your shortcomings or where you're coming from, and they know what you need, then go ahead and allow them that opportunity to do so. All right, it looks like we got a direct message. And any recommendations on how to handle bad publicity as a company from a branding perspective? How can you best address a public misstep by a leadership team member, for example? So question is, how do you handle bad publicity? I know the old adage goes something like, any publicity is good publicity. Not so much anymore when we have information and the world at our fingertips that can spread very, very quickly. Silence is not golden. Silence is not your friend in this case. You will hear from many different PR experts or engagements and community professionals. My perspective, which I will share with you, is that silence is not golden and it is not your friend in this perspective. The sooner your team can get the truth of the matter out there, the better. Rather the truth and the first statement coming from your team, whatever that misstep may be, own it and speak to it, whether you have a comment or not. At least issue a statement that says, we are aware of what unfolded, we are aware of the situation, we will update you, and take them on that journey. Build trust. So immediately from that misstep, build trust. Build trust that you will deliver information as it becomes handy to you. build that trust that you will share as soon as it becomes something that they can get from you. So I don't think it's a great idea to stay silent. You've got to issue a statement. You've got to address the public. And I think building that trust and credibility and what your next steps will be. So again, coming back to do what you say you'll do. If you say you're going to rectify the problem or you say what that looks like, do it. If it was a compromise to the company's values, to the company's sort of mission, if the executive took a misstep or something, you've got to be true to those values, to your stakeholders, to your investors as well, that you take the right step. So how you hold someone accountable at an entry-level position needs to be how you hold someone at an executive level position as well. Not fun to handle some PR that's quite negative, I know, but in the long run, it's the right thing to do. All right, I'm going to go through some more messages over here. Transparency is a key differentiator. Buffer. You're right. It was such a bizarre concept of how wild that would be, that you would be so transparent, and it's really set the standard, I think, for a lot of folks now. It's a complete wild standard of what they did. I can't remember. I might misspeak here, but it may have been Airbnb who maybe Brian Chesky shared why they were laying off folks or something like that early in the year for the pandemic. I think that was excellent. Open letters to investors, stakeholders, the community are a great way to build that transparency, but it has to be genuine. Don't do it just because it's a release. Do it for a purpose. All right, what tools can we use as marketers to help us manage content and engagement marketing? This is a great question. Something that focuses on CRM, customer lifecycle on social media platforms. Ooh, that is a good question. Nothing is really coming to me right now. I'll need to come back to you on that, Mama, on some different products that are using different project management. I'm a huge fan right now of Notion. Notion is really helpful. I like the different integrations there. I'm pretty old school when it comes to using G Suite for a lot of the collaboration, live collaboration. I'll need to come back. If you have any ideas or suggestions and you're watching and listening, drop it in the chat, please. Would love to be helpful in that regard. All right, let's see another question here from Aaron. How do you advise companies to go to market? This is great. How does the go-to-market timeline look for you as far as pre-launch, digital marketing, soft launch, and full go-to-market? Great. These are coming in the next slides. All right. So just going back to that question of founder stories, share stories as a blog post or just a normal post with a nice photo. Marjan, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, but I would suggest on LinkedIn you keep it within the feed. I think it's 1,200 words that you can post in the LinkedIn actual post. Don't send them elsewhere. Just keep them on LinkedIn, but a link to your company. Share a nice photo that makes sense. If there's a picture of the founder as a kid selling something or reading a book that was impactful, those are always cool. I always like seeing pictures from childhood. All right, so I'm going to dive into go to market. Let's go to market now. And again, stop me as I'm going. All right, here we go. So for your go-to-market, this is what you need to do in your marketing strategy to get started. Create those buyer personas, understand who it is you're going to be talking to, why it's so impactful. Be really clear. Give them names if you have to. I know folks get really caught up in, we have a 25-year-old post-grad college students and give them a name. Get as descriptive as possible and start calling them that. So really identify, create those buyer personas, get really, really specific on the details there. You can always change it. Outline that buyer's journey. What does that look like? So you get a bunch of inbound leads. What happens then? Who's going to take care of that? How does that flow? This is very operational, but understand what that looks like and how that is going to flow throughout the whole process. From there, be very clear on your pricing strategy. This is absolutely critical for your go-to-market, and understand what that pricing strategy is. Be clear about it, have it set in motion. You can change it down the road, but your go-to-market needs to really be solidified on your pricing strategy. And then develop your messaging. Again, this is that narrow focus, understanding what you're working on and why. So considering you have that product market fit, you have your MVP, you're ready to go to market, then you get to this stage. All right, so in terms of getting ready to go to market, what does that timeline look like in pre-launch? I think there's a lot that you can do for different stages, and it's really hard on a go-to-market based on, do you get beta users first and then go to market? Do you launch with a marketing strategy first? It's really unique. I think it's hard to give a blanket answer, Erin. I'm happy to dive into some of those things a little bit further, but it's really hard. I don't believe there is a one-size-fits-all for a go-to-market. And you know what? There are companies that go to market twice. There are companies that do it again. So there could be a soft launch, and there could be a really fireworks shooting, dynamite type of launch for the second time around. So I'm very weary about saying this is when you go to market, this is how the next step follows, but I can share the strategies around that, and then you fit it into what you're doing. All right, so look, you need to determine what the various channels are that you're going to go to market. What does that look like? Are you going to do a press release? Are you going to have a blog post supporting that? Are you going to have a founder story? What does that truly look like for you? And map that out. I often say, do something that is going to kickstart a content flywheel for you. So invest in a large piece of content. You likely are going to create a product video, regardless of what that is. Invest in that product video and then create different marketing elements from that. So from your product video, you will have already created a script. Okay, so your messaging is in there. From that product video, that's likely, I would hope, it's less than 2 minutes long. There are multiple 15-second to 30-second clips that you can pull for social launch. Okay, there is a whole narrative that you can share from that. So leverage your product video for all other means of your marketing. It's going to save you a lot of time, and it's going to save you a lot of hassles recreating a lot of pieces of content. Understand how you're going to launch. Is there going to be a digital kickoff? Is there going to be a live event? Is there going to be a socially distant happy hour with your internal team? Whatever that looks like, I think it really is important that you understand whether there's a countdown on social media, whether there is a live AMA with the founders, whatever that looks like. A traditional press release is not going to, let's just say this, I'm not a huge fan of a traditional press release for going viral, getting picked up by all these different outlets. It's going to have to be one special press release and a story behind that if you think it's going to just pick up traction. So really understand how you support that. Yes, a press release is helpful, but what are the other supporting elements that you can dive into that can really, really get traction there? And then product hunt. Are you going to hunt your product on Product Hunt? I think this is incredibly important to understand if this is the approach you wish to take. Because if you are going to have a successful hunt, you will need all these other elements. You will need the product video. You will need the founder stories on LinkedIn. You will need the community as well. Product Hunt can be wildly, wildly successful for a launch, but you need all the other elements to pull it off, to do it well. You need the community, you need the founders behind it, and you need to find a hunter who will do it for you. I'm happy to talk more about Product Hunt offline if you'd prefer. But again, this is really, really important that you understand what that looks like. Paid media, I think, can be interesting. It's not an approach that I would typically take at the get-go. It's something that I would want to see what works, if there's a video that's working, and then put some spend behind that, or different channels that might be performing well. If you come out guns blazing and you are pouring money onto Google or your SEO, I think you need to have a really solid strategy behind that. So see what works first. That would be my recommendation. Great question here. What does the new age press release look like? I'm so glad you asked this. I absolutely love to see the founder story. I would love a founder video. Hey, this is why we're doing this. I've just launched this. I am so excited. This is my team. This is what we're solving for. And I think that's really important. It can go across multiple different mediums, because the number of press releases that read the exact same format, it's pretty old. I would love, put a +1 in the chat the last time you read a press release from title to media contact at the bottom. I would love for you to see who's done that. So make it interesting, really and truly. The new age release is sort of looking at it as a tour, a speaking tour. What does that look like? What blogs can you be on? Who can write about you? Who can really share what's going on and build that community? So a new age press release is community buy-in, a message from the founder themselves, and really talk about that. And I see Joseph just dropped in a valuable resource here as well for Product Hunt launches. Product Hunt launches are really big in the Bay Area. I haven't seen many out of the Southeast. I'd love to see a lot more on Product Hunt. I'd like to see a lot more coming through that and using that platform as well. I think that's some great questions that have come through here. And Minaj, thank you for dropping my press release site only for investment use. That's really helpful. I think that's great for folks to get an idea of what it is that is in there. So really understand where you want to launch, what that looks like. It doesn't have to be the same for everyone. It shouldn't be the same for everyone either. And what's important is those community members, those beta users, those free trial users, friends, family, aunties, cousins, whomever they are, your vet, your doctor that's on your list. Let them know when you are launching. Get them excited about this. I need confetti and energy, balloons, whatever it is. Let them know that it's coming. And let them get excited with you. That's important for your launch. And take them along for the ride. If they've been through all the tough parts of the alignment of the product market fit, or different bugs and things like that, bring them along for the celebration too. That's important. All right. How do we know if it's working or not? understand what those success metrics are and what they look like for a launch. So set your KPIs. They don't have to be super scientific in a Gantt chart. You really don't need something super scientific, but you do need to be clear on what success looks like for you so that you can have your benchmark for what's next and how you can improve and what needs to get better. So that's really, really important. Is it the number of leads? Is it the number of email addresses that you collected? Is it the number of signups? It's really, really important. Promotional channel metrics. How many opens of your email did you receive? How many? Yes, let's go straight for vanity likes. How many folks liked your announcement? It's important because you know what? You can go back to that Twitter announcement and look who was engaged, who reshared, who liked it. You can pull that data and reach out to them after the fact. Okay, that's really, really important. LinkedIn too. Who's engaged? Who said congratulations? Great. Follow up with them. It's easy. It's low-hanging fruit for you. Website traffic, monitor this. Make sure it's all set up in whether you're using Google Analytics or you're using Mars or whatever platform you're using. Make sure it's set up so that you know what traffic spikes or whatever. I can only wish that your product crashes or your website crashes for the number of traffic that you get. That is my wish to all of you, and that it quickly gets rebooted. And then news coverage. Do you say, listen, we want 5 local publications, we want 1 major news release, something like that. Be very clear on what those KPIs are, and don't come up with your KPIs after you've launched and done it. Use your KPIs to drive what you are doing and drive how you get there. So it's really important that you set that at the get-go. So if you say, hey, we want to be picked up by TechCrunch, we want to be picked up by Wall Street Journal. Well, I sure hope that you are doing everything you can in your marketing materials to prepare you to land in one of those publications. It's not going to happen with a wish and a song and a dance. You have to be very intentional in how you get there. And then also your product adoption metrics are very important. So that's the number of product trials, that's the number of signups, the usage as well. So these are more long-term. It's not just the week of launch. And then user retention is going to be really important. So back to that idea of, was this the right user base? Is this the right fit? Are these the right personas? So if you've seen a lot of churn, perhaps there's something that's not quite on point in that capacity. All right. And so this is really, really, really important. Take a moment to read this, because I think you can have an excellent product. You can have the most effective pain-killing product out there. But if you don't have access to the market, you will lose. And I'm sure you've seen this time and time again, that there might be a huge, huge company or an enterprise or someone with a lot of funding or someone with a lot of market access that might have a subpar product, but the accessibility to the market, accessibility to the visibility of the market is superior. They will always win. I hate to tell you, but it will always win. So that's why an exceptional go-to-market will always win over a great product. So having that accessibility to market, building that community, understanding who that customer is really important, so that your excellent go-to-market can support a great product as well. All right. Any questions, drop them in, please. I will answer as many questions as you wish to be here this afternoon. And Manoj says, an awesome products are built but couldn't achieve product market fit in 2017. We hear this quite a lot, that perhaps you're too early to market. Didn't have access to the market in 2017. There we go. That is so true. It's incredibly common to hear this, and I think that it's definitely a shortcoming for a lot of folks. All right, again, if you have any questions, I'll also check Twitter. If you drop anything there, let me know. Happy to answer those, as well as in LinkedIn if you want to drop some questions there. Would you be able to give a quick assessment? Absolutely. What would you like me to give you a quick assessment on? Looks like we might be waiting for something in the chat here. My LinkedIn profile, I'm looking for attacking investors. I hope that's attracting investors and not attacking them. But yes, absolutely. I will, let me make a note of that. I still use a pen and paper, so I'm going to make a note of that, Marjan. Sorry. Fantastic. And look at your LinkedIn. Cool. And then, great, Amber Smith asked a question. You may have mentioned this, but is there a feedback loop you can suggest for new websites? And I think this is what you mean for a feedback loop in terms of users. Is this perhaps a community of folks that are looking at it? So I think that might be the case, or a feedback loop. Can you define that, please, Amber, a little bit further, if you don't mind? A feedback loop you can suggest for new websites. I imagine you're building a new website and you want some feedback on that. If you have that close community, I would recommend sharing that. So often as marketers and founders, we get so tied into what we think looks good or what makes sense to us. Give it to someone who has absolutely no idea. I think I also read or heard a podcast that shared founders were Uber drivers at one point in the Bay Area, and they would just share their pitch and their product to different riders and get feedback that way. Have no idea what the product is. They're not close to it at all. So I love that. I love the idea of giving your pitch. Sharing what that sounds like. Oh, that's a great resource, Manoj. If you are building a product, pioneer.app, this is great. I'm going to look at a lot of these as well. I'm not as familiar. All right, I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you may be. Would love to be a resource to you. Anything else you may need, again, that's a hashtag. I'll follow it as well, just to see if there's anything that pops up. How you can get in touch with me. Again, LinkedIn, email address, and website. Would love to hear from you. And it's on Twitter, Tammy_McQueen. I'm on all the social platforms except TikTok. I'm a terrible dancer. I don't have much rhythm in that regard, so I'm not there. Not on Snapchat either. I think it's a generational thing. I'm not sure. But LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, if you can, wherever that may be. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. One more question that come up here, White Schools. How do you find influencers in your market and industry? I think that is understanding who has the most impact in that industry, what that looks like in terms of, are they influencers with 1 million followers, or are they nano influencers with less than 5,000 sort of followers? I think that's also just as impactful. Look at what I found most effective is looking at different virtual and in-person events, who's on that speaker lineup for that specific track. For example, if you're in cybersecurity, or if you are in B2B SaaS marketing, look at some of the conferences and virtual events that speak to that, and look at who the lineup is. Those are folks that are likely, thought leaders, industry action leaders in what they do, and they can speak to that as well. All right. I'll hang on for a little while if you have any other questions, but it has been an absolute pleasure being with you on a Friday afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. If you are going to a happy hour on your balcony or patio, have one for me, enjoy it. If you're taking it easy or you're winding down with the kids or movie night, enjoy it. It's been a long week, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and look forward to talking with you and catching up with you afterwards. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.